everybody, welcome to episode 11 of Pins and Needles. My name is Zoe. You can find me on Ravelry as BFG and on Instagram as Pins and Needles UK. A big welcome back to anyone that's watched me before, and hello for the first time to any new subscribers. I've had quite a few new subscribers this last 2 weeks, so that's fantastic. And I thought it would be worth giving you a quick lowdown on about me. It's been a while since I've done that. So, as I said, my name is Zoe. I live right on the coast in South Wales in the UK. And I'm about 12 miles west of Cardiff. And I live in a big Victorian house with my husband Dave and my 3 children, Conrad, Jocelyn and Max, and my lovely black Labrador, Jim the dog. You might hear from him in a minute. If anybody knocks on the front door for the kids to come and play, he goes bananas, so you'll have to excuse the doggy noises. Dave and I run our own business. We run a gym in Cardiff, so that keeps us pretty busy. And as well as knitting and sewing, I like weight training, romantic walks on the beach with Jim the dog, and reading. So there you are. So as I mentioned in my previous episode, once I hit 500 subscribers, I will be doing another giveaway. And as of today, which is Sunday the 2nd of October, I am at 497. So I'm sure I'll get another 3 subscribers during the next 2 weeks. So keep an eye out in the next episode for details of the giveaway. It will include those 5 balls of cotton DK yarn by Erica Knight that I showed in the last episode. So I'll scramble a few more of the bits and pieces together and put a lovely, fabulous prize together for you. I will put all the details of everything I mention in the drop-down box below, and I'll also include timings of the different sections, so if you want to skip a bit or jump to a favourite section, just check down there for the details. As usual, it's been a busy couple of weeks, kids and extra shifts and all sorts, and last weekend I packed the kids up and went home to my mum's for a couple of days. My mum lives in Stratford-on-Avon in the Midlands, which is where Shakespeare was born, for anyone that didn't already know that. And I went to visit my grandma, who's in a nursing home now, but she taught me to knit and taught my mother to knit and sew, and I'm very fond of her indeed. So I went to go and visit grandma, and then we took the kids to a food festival that was happening. They had all stalls up and down Bridge Street in Stratford, and we ate pork souvlaki, and the kids had burgers and chips, I think, and generally had a lovely time. So that was my weekend. Normally, the weekend in between podcasting videos is when I manage to dedicate a day to sewing. And I find sewing quite difficult to pick up and put down. Knitting, you can do 3 stitches and shove it back in the bag. Sewing, I need a bit more time to get into it. So I didn't have last weekend, so it's been a bit of a rush to try and get some stuff done to show you this week. I am coming to you a day later than normal. I'm sorry about that. I had a random, unexpected work thing yesterday that demanded my attention, and there just wasn't the time to get anything done. So I'm sorry I'm a bit late. My apologies for that. Hopefully there will be no more surprises, so I can just crack on. Right, first up is pins, my sewing section. Now, I only have one thing to talk about in pins this time, and I finished my shift dress. I was making New Look K6145. Here's the pattern, and I was going for this pink version here, but I decided to do the pleated sleeves of this version. Now, I mentioned in my last episode that when I was in London on the Great London Yarn Crawl, we visited Ray Stitch, and they had a shop sample made up hanging on the wall of the pleated sleeve version in a lovely chambray. And originally I thought the pleated sleeves were bordering on fussy, but then I saw the made up version and fell in love with it and decided I'd go for it. So I completed my shift dress, and it's, how to describe it? It's a mixture of the good, the bad and the downright ugly. So, so I will talk you through the various bits, and then I will nip off screen, try it on, and then you can have a look and see what I mean. So, first of all, I have it here on a hanger so I can show you some nice close-ups. So, first up is the good, and that is definitely the fabric. This is some jersey fabric I bought from Butterfly Fabrics in Cardiff. It's a navy background with a sort of a stone spot and a sort of a bronzy brown flash around the edge. And I think it's a Ponte Roma. It has got a tiny bit of stretch, but not much. And it was a fabulous choice for this dress. It's really good for autumn, nice and snuggly. And I wear quite a lot of navy, so I thought that'd be quite handy. I had quite a lot of firsts in this pattern. It's the first time I've ever set in an invisible zip. Now it's very far from perfect, but it's not a bad first try. As you can see, it's not invisible, and it is a little bit wavy, but I think my problem is the machine foot that I used. I have got a zip foot, but I don't know if it's an invisible zip foot or not. I have a John Lewis branded Janome sewing machine, and that is my zip foot. Now I don't know if there's a zip foot and an invisible zip foot, or if they're the same thing, but that's the one I used. And the problem with my zip was that I couldn't keep the zip coil in the groove of that foot. So basically I didn't manage to stitch close enough to the zip coil, which I think is why I've got a visible zip. But, you know, other than that, it meets nicely at the top, and it is a little bit more invisible towards the bottom. I also used my walking foot. This is just a generic one that I bought off the internet, and this is recommended for use with jersey. If you can see, this bit here moves up and down, and it raises and lowers this plastic bit here, which acts as extra feed dogs. So you have the feed dogs on the bottom of your machine, and then the feed dogs from the walking foot, and they work together and go like this, and it stops the fabric stretching. So I use my walking foot. That's not totally new, I've used that before, but it's still quite good fun. You have to get your screwdriver out and unscrew various bits of it. The walking foot also comes with this. I don't even know what that is. I didn't use that bit. So yes, the zip went in pretty good for my first try, and I succeeded with my walking foot, so that was nice. This pattern has 2 darts down the back, one here and one there. Now I had to make quite a few modifications to this pattern, including adding 1.5 inches to the length of the bodice, which obviously cuts through the middle of the darts. So I had to redraw the darts and change the markings on the pattern. Again, not complicated, but it was just another step. And I definitely needed the extra length, and the dart placement worked out absolutely fine, so I was pleased with that. And oh yes, also this was the first time I have ever done anything with a set-in sleeve. I've done kimono sleeves before, but not set-in. So I found myself a video tutorial and also a video tutorial for the zip, which I will talk about later. And had a go at setting in the sleeves. And I haven't clipped all of the threads on this or wiped the chalk marks off, so you'll have to excuse me, but how about that? There's the sleeve line. So this was a gather between 2 points job and then ease the sleeve cap into the bodice, and it's absolutely perfect. Not a pucker, nothing. And there it is around the back and the front. So no, I was very pleased with those. I mean, the sleeves, well, I'll talk about the sleeves, but anyway, setting them in, absolutely fine. I got the facing, it's got an internal facing, and I just overlocked the edge on that, and yeah, so that was the good. So, you know, it was a nice fit from the hips down, I took my measurements and I made one size smaller than the pattern suggested, and that was perfect for the hips and below. So that was the good. On to the bad. Now, the fit in the bodice is not fantastic. Again, it'd be easy to see when I try it on in a minute, but I think it's a bit too big across here. And I can't decide if I need the next size down or if I need to do a hollow bust adjustment. So I'll try it on in a minute and you can have a look. And also it's the 3/4 sleeve. There we are, look. And it's supposed to end about here. Now I added an extra 3 inches to the sleeve length. I'm 6'1", every single part of me is longer than you'd expect. So I added 3 inches to the sleeve as it was. Not quite long enough, I probably need 1 extra inch. And although it fitted fine around the upper arm, it was really quite snug around my forearms. As I mentioned, I do a lot of weightlifting and I have fairly substantial forearms. So even by having a seam allowance of 1/8 of an inch, which is quite difficult to sew accurately, it was still quite tight. So I think when I make another version, I'll go up a sleeve size and probably have a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance for that. So that was the good and the bad, and now for the ugly. Well, these sleeves look absolutely fine on the hanger. Don't they look fine? It may or may not be to your taste, but I set them in, they look reasonable on the hanger, they look fine. Well, I'll try it on now. They are awful. Do you remember last episode I said that I wore my denim skirt to London, the one that I sewed, and nobody pointed and laughed at me and it didn't fall off? Well, if I went out wearing these sleeves, people would come up to me and fall about laughing. They'd be weak because it looks absolutely terrible. I don't know if it's the wrong fabric choice or quite what, but it looks awful, absolutely awful. So I'm going to pause the filming here, nip and get changed, and I will come back in just 1 second so you can have a really good laugh. Okay, so bear with me. Right, I'm back. Can you see? Can you see how just horrendous these sleeves are? Look what they're supposed to look like on the pattern, right? And if you remember, when it was on the coat hanger, they hung nicely. But what even is this? This is like the nightmare love child of a 1980s mutton sleeve wedding dress. My apologies if you got married in the 80s. And a linebacker's shoulder pad uniform. I mean, my God. So, I don't know if you can see, but there's like a divot. I mean, you could put snacks in there. I don't even know what's going on there. So I've sewed the pleats in fine, but they fall like that. I mean, I don't even know what that's about. If I pull them up, right, they can't even really stand upright. I don't know. That's the best I can do. So that's like, sorry, I don't even know what that is. It's like it's not standing up to be a full-on, just accept it's a mutton sleeve job, because it's got this divot in it. What you want to do is turn the divot inside out, haul the whole thing up 3 inches and pin it. And doesn't that look better? So I don't know. I don't know if it's the wrong fabric choice or if it's not sitting. I don't know if I did something wrong, but honest to God, I mean, yeah, I could have cheese footballs in this side and peanut M&Ms in that side. But yeah, I don't even know. Anyway, so I am deeply, deeply unhappy with the sleeves, to the point that I'm just going to rip them out, throw them onto the fire pit and bury the ashes at the top of the garden. I'm really disappointed. I just don't know what went wrong. If anyone has any suggestions, do let me know. I suspect it's just the wrong fabric, but I mean, what are you supposed to do with that? That's not even a thing. Anyway, so I don't know if you can see properly, but I'm not happy with the neck. It gapes here, And I don't think I stretched the fabric because I was super careful cutting it out. The facing has interfacing on it, and the fabric doesn't seem to be stretched. I think I've just got more room here than I need. So I need to decide, but it seems to fit quite well across the chesticles. I stand up a bit. So the darts come in here, which is about where I want them to be. And I can't quite decide if I need a smaller size or if I just need to pinch and do a hollow bust adjustment there. I'm not entirely sure. And that is the sort of size neck I was after. It's hard to tell from the picture. It does look like quite a wide neck, but I mean, it's to the point where you almost can't avoid seeing your bra strap. So couple that with the fact that the sleeves are really very tight and not quite, well, maybe they are long enough, but I turned a tiny weeny seam on these because I needed the extra length. So yes, these are my disastrous 80s linebacker sleeves, which really, they're just going to have to come out. I just look enormous and they've got these weird pockets. But apart from that, it's not too bad. I have no idea what you can see, but it fits reasonably well across here. But I have got rather a lot of fabric under here. There's my side view. And if I turn a little bit more, it's hard for you to tell. You can see the ripply zip. Can you see the ripply zip? And also, again, I've got a lot of fabric here. This is where the back darts are. So I'm wondering if I pinch those in a bit, or if I just take the side seams in. I'm undecided. Anyway, as my penance for making such a laughably awful pair of sleeves, I will finish off the podcast in my mutton leg linebacker short sleeves, and you can all choke laughing on your beverages. Anyway, I tried. So the good, the bad and the ugly, this is what I've ended up with. I'll take the sleeves out and start again. That's the only sewing I managed over this last 2 weeks. My next project is going to be the Linden sweatshirt in my grey French terry. Hopefully that will be a lot simpler. And that's a raglan sleeve, not a poof sleeve, so hopefully we won't have a repeat disaster. So yeah, although this is unwearable because of the sleeves, hopefully I can fix it, and certainly the main body of the dress is fine. I may well tweak the top for when I make my next version. So on to needles, my knitting bit. I had one goal, which was to start and finish the yoke on my Epistrophy cardigan. Epistrophy is by Kate Davies, katedaviesdesigns.com, from her book Yokes. Now, the last time I showed you, I joined the sleeves and body, I'd started the decreases, but I hadn't started the yoke yet. And I have finished it. Look at that beauty. Looks like I've got a tiny little shrunken head. There is my cardigan. I took a picture of me wearing it, but I don't know if I put it up on Instagram. If not, I'll take a better one and put it up on Instagram. I haven't had a chance to do the steeking, and I decided that I'd leave all of my bits and pieces in here so that I could show you. So as you can see, I put the sleeves and the body on a lifeline before I joined them together. I put another lifeline, can you see it just at the bottom of the colourwork section there? So I did the decreases, which you can see here, and then I put another lifeline in before I started the colourwork, so if I made any mistakes I could rip it all out and all the stitches would be caught. And I also, when I finished the colourwork, I put another lifeline in, and you can still see all my stitch markers dangling away, so that I always use those for colourwork so I don't get too lost. This is a bit of a Franken cardigan. I am a pear shape, so I think I knitted a size 6 for the hips, so for the cast on and the hips, I decreased down to a size 5 for the waist. I didn't increase back out for the bust, I just knit straight from the waist. I knit a size 8 for the sleeves, because as I mentioned, obviously linebacker arms. And I was deeply unsure about what size to knit for the yoke. My tension is much looser with colour work than it is with stocking stitch. And I had an odd number of stitches because I had a size 5 bodice and size 8 sleeves. So I joined the sleeves and the body and I knit one round plain and I counted the stitches and I just decided to knit the yoke size that was nearest to the number of stitches I had, which turned out to be a size 5 as well. But I was a bit unsure because I've got quite broad shoulders, made much worse by my snack dish sleeves. But then my tension is much looser on colour work and I was in danger of never getting on with it. So I put the lifelines in, I knit the colour work. And if you have a look at the project pages on Ravelry, a lot of people have commented that although there is some decreases after the colour work yoke, not very many. And the ribbing stood straight up like a funnel and just looked awful. So lots of people added in extra decrease rows and I did the same. I think I brought it down to under 100 stitches in a DK weight yarn, and then you do a bit of beaded rib and I cast off in the contrast colour. The yarn is Sirdar Balmoral DK, which is wool, alpaca and silk. It is discontinued, I'm afraid, so you won't be able to have any. But yes, once you get into the colour work, you can see really clearly the steek bridge stitches here. So the next stage for me is to crochet reinforce these steeks and then slice right up the middle. So Kate Davies has a tutorial for this on her website, which I'll talk about later. So maybe this afternoon, maybe while this is uploading, I'll take some scissors to my cardigan. Oh. But anyway, I tried it on and it does fit nicely. So I think overall, I chose the right size, even though it's the size 5 stitch count for the yoke, it's come out nicely to match. And they didn't give finished measurements for the yoke in the pattern, so I had to sort of take a bit of a guess. But yes, I'm really rather pleased with that. So I need to cut this, reinforce the steek, cut it open, then it's button bands, and there's some ribbon facing on the back, and then it's buttons. I'm undecided about these buttons. I think they might be a bit too small. This is my tension square I did, and these are my buttons. There we are. They're painted coconut and they've got little knitting stitches on them. I don't know if I'll be able to show you without it blowing out. There we are. Yeah, those are my buttons. But they are quite small. I don't know. See, I've got all my lifelines here. Do you think they're going to be a bit small? I've got plenty of them. I don't know. I'll see. I'll see how it goes. The trouble is, although you can swap buttons out later, I can't swap them out for bigger buttons because obviously the buttonholes won't be large enough. So I need to decide if I want to actually do buttonholes or if I just put poppers on the button bands and sew these on for decoration. We'll see. Anyway, so that's my Epistrophy cardigan. I'm really pleased with that, and hopefully that will be finished to show you next week, because it is starting to feel a bit like autumn at the moment. Although today is weirdly warm and sunny, and it has been cooler, and I have actually been under a blanket on the sofa a bit recently, so winter is definitely coming. Right, the only other knitting project I've been working on has been Dave's Christmas socks. I showed you last week that I had bought some red yarn from Drops, and Dave decided he wanted Christmas socks. So that's what I've been doing. So here they are. The pattern is Blueberry Waffles by Sandy Turner. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. And although the pattern itself is written for DK weight yarn, it's a 4-stitch pattern repeat. So it will go into all sorts of standard sock stitch counts. Dave has honking great big feet, so this is an 80 stitch round. and it's knit 2 rounds and then it's knit 2 purl 2 for 2 rounds, and you just keep repeating that. So yes, this is Drops Fabel in colourway 106 red, and I'm really enjoying the pattern. This is my commuting knitting at the moment, so I knit this on the train to and from work, and then Dave doesn't get to see them, so he knows he's getting red socks but he doesn't know the pattern. And that is my gorgeous little Russian doll stitch marker from Atomic Knitting. I'm knitting these magic loop 2.25mm addies. I'm not sure if they're lace, but they're addies anyway, nice and pointy. So yeah, not much more to say about that. About ½ an inch to go, and then I'm onto the heel flap. I'll do a standard heel flap and gusset, and these are working up quite quickly, even though I'm not spending a huge amount of time on them, because your fingers can just fly and then you just don't need to concentrate. Plus I've been on the train quite a lot, so that's working out rather nicely. In terms of my knitting plans, getting on with the Epistrophy cardigan, I'll keep working on the socks. And I don't know if you remember my hat that I'm knitting for the Harvest Hat Along 2016, the Kill to Craft podcast, but I'm desperate to get back to that, so I'll concentrate on that. I do have a little bit of stash acquisition. I have ended up with 2 skeins of undyed merino nylon sparkly sock yarn from Jenny from All About Yarn sold me these, and from a whip that I haven't shown you for a while. I keep it in my Eldenwood Craft project bag. I absolutely love this, the lovely Emma of Eldenwood Craft, and I'm knitting a scrappy sock blanket, but it's a slightly different pattern to what you might expect. It's called, I wrote it down, sorry. The pattern is called A Stitch in Time, and it's by Kate Jones of the Bakerybears podcast. You can find her on Ravelry as Bryonybears, and if you go into her project page, it's listed in there. So what you do is you knit mitered square blocks. Keep covering up my face. These are my blocks. I'm using a 31 stitch mitered square, and you knit a block of 9 like this, and then using your cream yarn you knit a garter border around the edge, and that makes a finished block, and then eventually you seam all of your blocks together so you get coloured blocks with cream surrounds all the way over your blanket, and you can make it as big as you like. Now most people just use scraps. I decided to be a little bit different, and I'm trying to make my blocks by one particular dyer. So when I was at the Yarningham Festival back in the summer, I bought a pack of minis by Mothy and the Squid. So all of these blocks are knitted in Mothy and the Squid minis. I also bought a pack of minis from Jo Knit Sew, who I hadn't heard of before, but her yarn is gorgeous. Both Mothy and the Squid and Jo Knit Sew have Etsy shops, so check the details down below and go and have a look. So this is my Jo Knit Sew square. These ones are sparkly. I absolutely love these, and it's a charcoal. It's particularly gorgeous. And I'm alternating the yellow and the green. So some squares have 2 yellows and 1 green, and others have 2 green and 1 yellow. So I've been waiting for the cream yarn for quite a while. So now I've got it, I can finish off my squares, do the edging. I'm going to try and get one done to show you next week. So I've got Mothy and the Squid squares done. I'm about halfway through my Jo Knit Sew squares, and I will have enough scraps from Owl About Yarn to do those squares, and also enough scraps from Tuddin Bryn, and I may have a couple of scrappy blocks at the end. I'm going to have to see how far I get. This is a long-term project, so I'm in no rush, but very much enjoying that. So hopefully I'll have that to show you next week in my Eldenwood Crafts project bag, which I love. So there we go. Right, on to my last section, which is my Two's Company section, where I just point you in the direction of interesting articles or bloggers that I've come across. So things to keep you company while you're crafting away. I mentioned that I looked up on YouTube a tutorial for putting in the invisible zip on this here chef dress. I hadn't put zips in before. Is that true? I think I've put in a normal zip on a box bag many years ago, but I've never done an invisible zip. So I just jumped onto YouTube and searched for a tutorial on that, and it brought up a tutorial by So Easy, a lady called Debbie. She lives on a tropical island somewhere, although she is British. I think she's from Hampshire from her accent. And that was a very useful video. And I took the opportunity to jump onto her website as well. Absolutely fantastic website. I'll put the details here. And it is jam-packed with brilliant free patterns. I think one of you guys recommended a skirt pattern to me when I was thinking about doing my denim skirt, and I think somebody recommended one of her skirt patterns. But she's got loads of free patterns for skirts, shorts, wrap dresses, lots of lovely looking bags, accessories, gents patterns, all sorts of things like that. And she also has lots of video tutorials, either for particular parts of her own free patterns or just general techniques like my zip pattern. So go and have a look at soeasy.com. Have a browse of her tutorials on her free patterns, and if you go on her homepage, you see the most recent blog article. And it's Halloween at the end of the month. So if anyone needs to sew Halloween costumes for their kids or for themselves, she has a really good blog article up there at the moment. Movie-inspired Halloween costume roundup. And there's Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, Despicable Me, all sorts of things. So do hop on there if you need some ideas. The next thing I wanted to recommend is a tag that's popular at the moment on YouTube. If you search the Seamstress tag, again I'll put it up here, and what it is, it's a set of 10 or 12 questions for sewers. Everything from tell me about yourself to your most disastrous make, to your most used pattern, to what machine do you use. And if you're quite new to sewing and you're like me and you're still trying to find new blogs and things to read, it's a lovely way to search and find new things to watch and just to find out a little bit more about the people involved and get some tips and tricks. So do have a look at those. A couple of my favourite ones are Jen of Gingerella. Hi Jen. She did one, and so did the lovely Lee from the Clueless Seamstress. And also there was one other, oh yes, Stitch My Style. Lovely lady called Helen, Stitch My Style. They're all British, if you're particularly keen on Brits. And it's a really nice introduction. And all of those three podcasters, the Clueless Seamstress, Gingerella and Stitch My Style, they're all worth a watch as well. They all follow a similar format. So at the beginning of the month, they will have a fabric haul and pattern plans. And then at the end of the month, or the beginning of the following month, depending how busy they are, they show you their makes and talk you through what they've been up to. So yes, do go and have a look at those. And then the last thing I wanted to recommend is the steeking tutorials by Kate Davies. She has a blog, katedaviesdesigns.com. She lives in Scotland with her husband and her Labrador, and her blog and her Instagram feed are just beautiful. She's a very good photographer, and so is her husband. So as well as knitting related things, there are some stunning photographs. Her husband Tom is also a great baker, so there's some lovely recipes on there as well. There's one for a plum cake at the moment and a courgette cake that I made, which was gorgeous. But yes, she has, sorry, I've written it down in my show notes, 4 steeking tutorials. One's just an introduction, so you understand what they are. The next one, Steeks 2, is reinforcing and cutting. Steeks 3 is the steek sandwich, which is her way of enclosing the steeking edges on the inside of your garment. And then Steeks 4 is a your questions answered. So each one of those is beautifully written, gorgeous photographs, really good, clear close-ups of the whole process. So that's what I'll be using to have a go with my Epistrophy cardigan. I do have the button swatch I thought I'd take the buttons off that and have a practice on this first, so if I'm going to balls it up, I won't ruin my whole cardigan. So yes, there you are. That is the end of my Two's Company section. Again, my apologies that this is a day late and also a little bit of a shorter episode, but I have been a bit pressed for time recently. So I hope you enjoyed watching. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up. Surely just for wearing this awful garment on the internet where it's going to stay forever, surely that deserves a thumbs up. And yes, if you were keen, do click subscribe as well. Come and follow me on Instagram. I try and post every day, so you can keep a bit more up to date with my progress on things. And the next episode, 2 weeks' time, I will have all the details of the 500 subscribers giveaway, so do come and join me next time. I hope you enjoy the last hurrahs of summer and the beginnings of autumn, and get some fabulous crafting time in. And if anybody has any suggestions about this awful sleeve incident, do let me know. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye!